What's up, everybody? Welcome to the How to Lead podcast, conversation designed to help you lead yourself and those around you. My name's Adam, joined by Clay. Clay, it's a new year. We were reminiscing about our break. I took my boys, my family, to Washington, D.C., a very stable environment. It was all these concrete monuments right there that we walked around. You, on the other hand, you and your family got on a very unstable environment. Was this your first cruise?
Yeah, my wife's been on a bunch of cruises. My in-laws have been on a bunch of cruises, but it was for me, and I've been on a 3-day cruise like 20 years ago, but it was,
okay.
I would say this was really my first cruise. Yes,
That's
7-day cruise.
7.
With me, my wife, our 5 children, and our in-laws.
And it was awesome, though, you said.
It was
like
great.
There's no punchline coming. There's no bad story.
It was great. I was shocked. I didn't want to like it. I don't know why. I didn't want my brand to be, oh yeah, no, I know Clay. He's a cruise guy. I did not want to be that guy.
That's right.
But
yeah,
dang it, Adam. There's
already booked
another one.
Yeah,
No,
you're a knee sleeve away from being totally a boomer with all of this. So.
I feel like you start wearing that wrist thing because you have,
carpal tunnel. You start going on cruises. This is all going to be part of my new brand. I'm already taking antacid medication, so this is just, it fits right in. It really does. Well, best thing you ate on the cruise was what?
They had a twice baked garlic cream goat cheese souffle. I won't say that was the best thing I ate. I just couldn't stop trying to make that into a rap lyric. My twice baked garlic cream goat cheese souffle. I don't know why. I just wanted so bad to.
That's funny.
Auto-tune that.
Well, very good. Very good. Glad you're there. Glad you guys did that. All right. It's a new year. Here's the deal. Most of these leaders that listen to our podcast, what I want to talk about today is I want to talk to senior leaders, those that are maybe responsible for leading their business, leading large teams as a part of their organization. Every year, typically goals are being reset. And so now everybody here is facing these new growth projections, right? They've got to cut costs. They've got to increase profitability, increase revenue, whatever it is. So I want to talk to senior leaders today very specifically about maybe what is a non-obvious way to achieve all of those growth goals that they've got for this next year. Obviously, there's a ton of things that you can do outside of your organization to improve marketing, market brand, product, all that kind of stuff that's going to go a long way. But I think it would also be incredibly helpful for senior leaders to think about what's going on in-house and how things that are happening in-house are going to help them achieve those revenue goals or whatever goals that it is that they're going after. And so that's what I want to spend some time for us talking about today.
I was really intrigued by the topic. This is one of the fun things about doing this podcast with Adam is sometimes one of us brings a topic and the other one's like, I'm count me as a learner. I'm in. I'm intrigued. And this is one of those for me. First question for me, when did this hit you? How did you bump into this?
Yeah, I think it was a couple of years ago reading Gallup's book, It's the Manager, where they introduced this idea to me called employment brand. That there's like 3 different brands in most organizations. You've got a market brand, which is what you're doing to attract clients and customers. Then you have an employment brand, which is what is your reputation out there in the job market so that you can attract and retain talent. That is becoming a huge brand. That almost as much time and energy is going into employment brand as is going into market brand. And then every individual within the organization also has a personal brand, which we've done a lot of episodes on that. So I don't know. I think it was that idea of employment brand, and very specifically with the job market where it is today, where there seem to be, on most of the headlines that I'm reading, a lot of jobs out there. A lot of my clients wish that they had more talent. They feel like they have more open positions. And so, listen, all these amazing goals that people have from a growth perspective, you are going to need people to get that done. So you need to not only attract new talent potentially to reach these new heights that you want to go to this year, but more than anything, you need stability. You need to retain the talent that is there. And so that's where this idea of the brand inside, like the brand inside the organization. What is your reputation? What's the gut feeling people get when it comes to thinking about how to work or what it's like to work there? is incredibly important, and I think is something that senior leaders need to think about, especially this year.
The thing I like about the topic, just off my guttural instinct, is the idea of we all want to grow, we all want to hit those numbers, we all want to achieve our goals, but really focusing on, there's so much power in focusing on getting better, that oftentimes getting better, focusing on our quality improvement, the improvement of our people, is the answer. That when we chase that, we end up accomplishing both the things that we want to do. So I'm intrigued to see the roadmap that you're going to lay out for us on this topic.
So listen, coaching and development, we did our most popular episode last year was on coaching and developing Gen Z and millennials. It is probably, from my perspective, the most common topic that is that I'm requested to speak on when I go in and speak to organizations. When I do one-on-one coaching with my clients, executive coaching and leadership coaching, it's probably the number one topic that comes up when doing that. So this is an enormous felt need for a lot of people. And what I want to let senior leaders, I think you know this probably in the back of your mind, or you feel this in your gut, but it is what is going to fuel growth, is how you are treating, training, and developing the next generation that's there behind you. All these ideas that you have, they can't be accomplished without people, as I've already said. The other thing where I think makes this very unique, though, for senior leaders is you probably have almost no time to do this. And so that's where I was trying to play with this tension of incredibly important, not a lot of time. What are some things, is it possible for a senior level leader to increase their coaching skillfulness without increasing the number of meetings on their calendar? And so that's where I came up with these three ideas that what I've seen from senior leaders that do this well. They do one thing with a lot of people, they do one thing with a few people, and then they do one thing with one or two people. And so those are kind of the three movements that I think we should take as we have this conversation.
Which, that's a really simple format, a really simple framework for us to think about it through. Where do you want to start? You want to start with the one thing with a lot of people? Or
let's start with a lot of people. Yeah. Right. And so here's what I would tell senior leaders this year is think out loud. That's it. Just let people know how you think.
Great.
And just talk a lot about it. So whenever you are around people and somebody asks you a question, my buddy Jonathan Bacluda sometimes would do it this way, where he would talk about, he wants to answer the question he received from one person. He wants to answer it loudly, meaning sometimes he'd get one email from a person. He would respond and copy the whole team on it, not to get anybody in trouble, but just going, I just want to give everybody my thoughts on this answer, so I'm copying the team on this. So when you get in rooms with people who are on your team that don't have as much experience as you, just do not underestimate how important it is for you to talk about the way you think about fill in the blank, serving customers, the way you think about marketing, the way you think about product development, the way you think about costs, the way you think about expenses, just the way you think about everything. Just let people know, because if I think back to my own career development, some of the best coaching I ever had from senior level leaders was when they just, and we're going to get to this here in a moment, they would invite me into a room and I would just watch the senior level leaders go back and forth, kind of sparring their ideas on one another. And I would just sit there and just watch and just like, that is amazing just to learn how they think about this. So that's not adding schedules or anything to your schedule. It's just a reminder as you're going around, just start talking loudly and letting people know how you think. That can go a long way in development.
The thing I like about that is that we're all looking for an apprenticeship culture, a culture that is constantly looking to apprentice others, right? Which the natural flow or the natural way we think about apprentices is the person who's been in for a long time is always doing this with people that are the junior, the JV, right? But I think what you're saying is, no, go beyond that. That there is a way for you to stamp out or multiply the culture that you're looking for by just talking about how you're thinking about things, by thinking out loud. That when we do that, it reminds me of the principle we used to use all the time, that you can't fill everybody's cup, but you are responsible to empty your own.
That's right.
So thinking out loud is a way to empty out your own cup. Hey, I just want to tell everybody, this is the way I'm thinking about this. And then it welcomes challenge. It welcomes questions, but it also welcomes people to learn and grow, because they're now hearing not just the problem that's solved, they're hearing the way the problem is
That's
being
exactly
solved.
it. And that's what Clay, we hear so many senior level leaders when they talk about people on their team, if there is that skill they want to develop in them, they don't think about the problem the same way I do. Now, sometimes that's really good. It leads to good task conflict and leads to good solutions. But sometimes that's a detriment, because the way you think about something is for good reasons, because you have lots of wisdom and you have lots of experience. And so, listen, we all can suffer, especially the older we get and the more seasoned we get in our career, we can suffer from that curse of knowledge, which is we forget what it's like to not know what we know. So just don't assume anybody knows nearly as much as you do, and just start answering loudly. So that's one thing you can do with a lot of people.
Right. Think out loud.
Yeah. The one thing you can do with a few people, all right, and this is going to make more sense because you can't do this with everybody, is giving people a view. As often as possible, if you can give them a view into your day-to-day world, that can be helpful. And here's the easiest way I've seen this play out is just start bringing some junior people into meetings that you're going to. So we used to say this over at Watermark, don't add meetings to your calendar, add people to your meetings. And so I think it was Matt Chandler years ago, it's where I heard it, is what he could give a junior level leader. He could give them a view, a voice, and a vote. Those three things. And it typically starts by just giving somebody a view. Just bring them into a meeting. Just let them see. Couple things why I think just bringing people into meetings and just saying your job right now is just to sit here and watch us, right? Just watch how this whole conversation goes down. Two things that I think are a benefit here. Number one is a lot of professionalism is caught, not taught. And so when you can allow somebody to just watch professionals interact, they're just going to catch what needs to happen. So that's really good. And then the second thing I would say is and it reminds me of an old quote from the Hamilton play where George Washington said that winning is easy, young man, but governing is harder. And when you give people a view into some of the world that you're facing each and every day, it just reminds them that leadership is not easy. I don't know why, but for so many junior level leaders, when they think about the life of the senior level leader, it's like they're on a cruise with you, eating goat cheese, double baked potatoes or whatever it is. And it's just not true. It's just not true. It's hard for everybody. And I think that's good to burst that bubble a little bit and give the younger leaders a view into what's happening, so they can realize, oh, this isn't hard. This is way harder than I expected. And yeah, that can be helpful.
The view certainly does cause you to realize what is actually true, which is that your boss has a harder job than you think your boss has.
That's right. So
and
well
that
said.
gives you, it gives you a lot of empathy, but it also, I think it helps people in the organization begin to police themselves rather than requiring police. I used to want everybody in our organization that could to get their eyes on our budget, because I wanted them to feel the weight of the budget like I felt the weight of the budget, because they certainly felt the weight of spending the budget. So I wanted them to feel the responsibility of managing the budget well in the same way that I did. But the only way to really do that is to give them a view, help them to see it, right? So I think that's fantastic. Not only talk out loud, use your voice, start bringing people into your decision-making process, but also give people into a view into the more some of the more nuanced challenges that you're facing.
That's right.
As a leader.
Yeah, and again, I've seen, when I was over on staff at Watermark, I feel like the senior leaders over there did such a great job of that. I mean, there were so many times I just got invited to lunches. I just got invited to go sit in on this meeting. And it was clear, right? And so you may be sitting there going, well, listen, Adam, I don't want to invite all these people in there because I don't have time to hear their thoughts. Well, just do your work on the front end. Just go, no, your only job
tell them
here.
You're not allowed to talk in this meeting.
No, yeah. You don't have a voice yet. All you have is a view. You'll get a voice later, but right now I just want to give you a view.
Great.
And then maybe afterwards we can debrief. What'd you see? What were your observations? All that kind of stuff. And listen, most adults learn on that need-to-know basis. They're all self-learners anyway. They're going to learn what they need to learn sometimes by just watching you. So anyway, throw some people on the calendar or invite them to meetings you already have scheduled and just let them have a view. That can be great. So something to do with everybody, just talk out loud. Something to do with a few, give them a view. And then just something probably with one or two people. And I'll just put this idea out there, and maybe Clay, you and I can think about how like practically this looks. But I think with one or two people, you just give them all of your secrets, all of them. Again, you can't go
up the truck.
That's right. And just unload. You know what it makes me think of is that silly thing that that Prof. Hendricks used to say about, just the fat people, faithful, available, teachable. That when you get that hungry person that's in your life, that you just know they are taking notes, they're learning quickly, they are applying what they're learning right away. They have an incredibly bright future. I think Kim Scott in Radical Candor would call these the rising stars that are probably only going to be on your team for a year or two because they're just moving fast. Give them everything. Just give them everything you got. And so if you're doing number one and number two right, then there's not going to be a lot of talks of favoritism or nepotism if you can only give a lot of your time to one or two people. If you're thinking out loud a lot, giving people a view. But again, just looking for those people to bring alongside with you and just give them all your secrets. I think that can go a long way.
Well, I'm glad you brought up favoritism or nepotism because I was thinking that. I was like, what does that do to the culture if people see you showing favorite, picking favorites, showing people that, I'm favoring someone over the other. The reality is in every organization, they already feel like you're doing that anyway.
Yep, that's good.
So they're already talking about that. Why not just be more strategic about it, be more intentional about it and say, hey, I'm not going to keep all of these people. I mean, this is really what's happening. And this is what Deion Sanders said. Coach Prime said this the other day about football players. He's like, we get like 25 in a class coming in. We all know the data. Half of them are going to leave. So we just go ahead and tell them up front, there's a 1 out of 2 chance that we're even going to coach you this year. And we're going to pick the 12 that we want to invest in because we want them to stick around. And the other 12, you probably were going to transfer anyway. So I do think it might cause people to think, you have favorites, but I feel pretty confident they probably already feel that way. Anyway.
Yeah. And listen, so that's one way to look at this and just know that may be an unintended negative consequence or one problem that you've got to manage that possibly comes up from this. Another way to look at this is the secret to multiplication, is that if you're picking the one or two who you know are not going to hoard all the information, they're going to go out and in turn start to train and develop the people under you. Then it's just good math and it makes a lot of sense and it's really efficient. So it's not I'm being just holding favorites with these two. It's no, because these two impact 12 others. And so I'm thinking about the other 12 and I'm investing in the other 12 by investing in those two. So anyway, man, there's so much more to say on this topic. And again, it's a fun one to visit. I don't think we can visit it enough on this podcast because again, I think this is such a big felt need for so many leaders, regardless of where you are. But I know that tension that a lot of senior leaders feel, which is I have these big goals that I've got to go after in very little time, but yet they still have to play a role in coaching and developing. And so hopefully these are some things that they can find that are ways to drive that growth without overburdening their schedule. So thinking out loud, give people a view, and just go deep with one or two people.
Adam, the thing that I love most about what you've laid out is that it doesn't take a lot of additional time. I think you've worked really hard to say, hey, I want to give you a framework that is not going to add to your calendar. I love that idea. I will also say, I kept thinking about that old adage that we've all heard dozens of times. Oh, but Adam, what if you develop these people and then they leave, right? Which I don't know how true it is, or I don't know if it's real or not, but I love the response to that is, yeah, but what if you don't develop them and they stay, right? And I think that's the mindset that we've got to have is if you don't do this, think about what's at stake. If you do this, it might cause you some extra work. It might cause you to be a little more intentional. They might become developed and become a better leader and leave, sure. But if you don't do this, what's at stake? I think that's the question that's been lingering in my mind is imagine what could happen if you just decided, no, I'm not going to do this at all. It's going to create a stagnant culture. It's going to create a culture where you're not developing others, and you certainly will not achieve your goals and dreams and hopes and measurements if you do that.
All that. Yep. All right, Clay. As always, great to have this conversation with you, and look forward to the next one.
Thanks, Adam. You too.
Well, that's all we got for today's episode of the How to Lead podcast. You can always reach out to us via email. We can be reached at info@howtolead.work. That's info@howtolead.work. Every episode is mixed and edited by the team over at Sound of a Rose. You can learn more about them at soundofarose.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you again next time.